Did you know how many event items your friends were giving you in your community research? And for this week, we're talking about the Raikou mains. So here is what it looks like when you receive Raikou mains from your friends. And the developers did tell us that the higher the closeness, the more Raikou mains you're going to get. And from this screenshot alone, you can probably tell that higher closeness gives you more mains. A lower closeness gives you less mains. But the question remains, does higher closeness give you a higher rate of your friends giving you this batch of Raikou mains? And the short answer is yes, it does increase your rate of getting Raikou mains or your event items from your friends. And if you just want to skip all the maths, not a problem, I'll give you the answer straight away. If you're at closeness 5 with a friend, your chance of getting Raikou main dropped from your friend is 22%. With our sample size, we are pretty confident that the real value lies somewhere between 19 to 25%. And this is the number that I on average got if they're at closeness 5. But don't forget that you get 3 mains dropped if they're at closeness 5, which is different when you're at lower closeness. So if you actually multiply the 22% by 3, then on average, your closeness 5 friend is giving you 0.7 main every day. So the main numbers to pay attention to are 22% and 0.7 mains per day. And we have a pretty good sample size for this result. I've analyzed over 800 data points to get this value, so I'm pretty confident that it's somewhere in the 20 to 25% range. But what about at lower closeness levels? Unfortunately, our data points are much worse. We have much smaller sample sizes at lower closeness, but we do have some data to support that the Raikou main drops are a lot less than that of closeness 5, approximately 11%, with a fairly large range that it could be, somewhere between 4 to 18%. But it's good news that this uncertainty doesn't overlap with the closeness 5, and we actually see a similar number for closeness 3, which actually is consistent with how many mains drop when they do get sent. So at closeness 4, you get 2 mains from your friend every time they do send a Raikou main. And at closeness 3, you get again 2 mains from your friend, which is actually consistent with having about the same rate of getting these event items. But again, because of the low sample size, these numbers are much less accurate compared to our closeness 5 value. Unfortunately, there's not enough time for me to collate more results at this point. And considering that there was a bug affecting how we collected data in the early days of this event, a lot of the data had to be thrown away. How about at closeness 2 and downwards? Well, I essentially didn't get anybody to get Raikou mains sent to them. In fact, it's so little that the only time I did get a report that I could use for data collection was at closeness 0. I only saw it once, giving us a very rough estimate of about a 2% rate for a Raikou main batch to be sent. When I say batch, I mean each batch can either give you 1, 2, or 3 Raikou mains, depending on your closeness level. And obviously you can actually still get Raikou mains at closeness 1 and 2. I just didn't get any data submission for those closeness level. And the reason why I don't have data points for closeness 1 and 2, and it's not because they don't happen, it's not because that your friends aren't sending you Raikou mains, it's because of a rigorous vetting process. I've removed a lot of data points that seemed biased or didn't record properly. I also only included data if the data submission was consistent, because there is an inherent bias when you screenshot these data points. Imagine when you get Raikou mains, you're more likely to screenshot the Raikou main that you obtain to show off than when you don't get any Raikou mains. So in order to remove biased data that would bias us towards a higher rate because of this, a lot of data couldn't be included. So yes, you can get Raikou mains sent to you, but it's just at a very low rate, if your closeness with your friends are at closeness 0 to 2. And my estimate is somewhere around 2%, not very high at all. Once you start hitting the closeness 3 onwards, you start to get a few more Raikou mains sent, and at closeness 5, you get a significant jump. And because of the low sample size, I understand that the uncertainty is quite big, but what is still accurate is to say that there is a trend of reducing amount of Raikou main drops, Raikou main batches to drop as your closeness level reduces. So if you ask me, this is another compelling reason why you shouldn't be resetting your friendship to get those closeness level up rewards. Besides the fact that at closeness 5, you have a much higher chance to get 2 times the candy from your friends. So at closeness 5, generally speaking, you have about a 30% chance of getting 2 times the candies. Now, one thing to note when you're looking at this table is that, yes, we're talking about a doubling of the rate of drop when you go from closeness 4 to closeness 5. But actually, there's almost a tripling amount of Raikou mains drop, but then that's because you get 3 mains as opposed to 2 mains per friend, which if you multiply the two numbers, you actually get a total of 3 times more, from 0.22 to 0.6 mains per friend that you have on your friend list. So staying at closeness 5 is very important if you want 3 times the amount of Raikou mains compared to somebody who only has friends at closeness 4. So if you have 50 friends who are all closeness 5, you simply multiply the 0.67 by 50 because it's 50 friends. And what we get is this number over here. The main dropped if you have 50 friends a day giving you Raikou mains. If they are all at closeness 5, you get about 33 Raikou mains, which is about 10 friends sending you Raikou mains on average. Whereas if your entire friend list is made of people at closeness 4, then you get about 11 mains every day, and same with closeness 3, and then not very much at all. These numbers are inaccurate, but not very much at all for closeness 0 to 2. Which is very interesting because we very briefly touched on this before, but if you have a child account or an account that cannot make friends for whatever reason, usually just means child account, you actually get this 50 main celebration gift from the developers. Twice, because it's over the 2 weeks, you get this once per week. This screenshot is from my own alt account, that's a child account. And the intention is to compensate for those accounts who cannot make friends so that they also get Raikou mains from community research. But looking at that now, 50 mains is not very much at all because I can get 33 mains in one day with closeness 5 friends. Whereas this is only per week. Over the course of a week, I can get about 231 mains, which is just about 4 to 5 times more Raikou mains to be an adult account than it is to be a child account. So I guess sucks to be a child. However, what I do find interesting is as we go towards the lower closeness levels, now we're getting much closer to the number of Raikou mains you would get as a child account. Over 7 days, if you only get about 10 mains a day, that's only about 70, which is not very much. And it's much closer to the 50 mains that they were giving away to the child accounts, which I used as an estimate initially to see how many mains we would get from community research. So I guess the main moral of the story here is stop resetting your friendship and try to make active friends to stay at closeness 5 for as much and as long as possible. I will continue to try and update this information, this data set, because there's just not enough data points at the moment for the low closenesses. Now this table is available on my Discord. I will continue to try and update this to improve our statistics so that this could be used for future events. And I hope you found this video helpful. If it did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.